So we've gone through our trigger point and our screens and assessments. Now it's time to mobilize when talking in terms of trunk stability. Now we're probably thinking stability, what do we need to mobilize for? But the reason why we're going to go through these couple of high impact mobility drills is it highlights any restrictions or range of motion issues in other areas of our body, but also just gets our body and our brain tuned to providing trunk stability at the times we need it, and it's proprioceptive awareness. So we're just moving in ways that will increase our awareness or movement competency to then be able to add stability. So making sure we have the mobility through the stuff we're about to go through is really important, just so we can get into the right position and let our body do the right thing. So our first one is our roller rotations. Now we're going to have that roller tucked between the lower legs, so between the knees, and grip like so, and we're going to be in a crucifix position on our back. Now the trick here, what we're doing is keeping our shoulders on the floor and dropping that roller to the right and left. Now our shoulders should not peel up off the floor, and we should be able to do it without too much strain. We should be able to maintain our breathing, which we've already learned about. Be able to touch our knee on the floor, each side, without that shoulder peeling up off the floor. What that shows is any particular restrictions on lateral hip or shoulder mobility when we're starting to rotate. And if we talk in terms of trunk stability, it's not just static stability that we talk about, it's dynamic stability when we're driving rotationally into those power movements such as punching, potentially our golf swing and things like that. So learning if there's any restrictions that hinder full range is super important. Now the next one, we're going to work on anterior stability, which is our active straight leg raise with core activation. So we're going to lay onto our back. We've got both bands here. We can use a cable machine if we have that at our disposal as well. But we're in a position where tension is on the band and our arms are vertical. Feet are together, toes are pulled back, and from here we are pulling down to the side and raising one leg and lowering under control. Releasing, bracing through the midsection again through that breath, and bringing the other leg up. So what we should notice here is if our feet are falling away or our hips opening by our toes falling away left or right when we raise that leg, we're creating range through our hip. We need to pull those toes back and keep them vertical. Bracing through the midsection, we should be able to raise that leg and comfortably come to a lower, 10 to 15 reps each side, which will allow you to brace anteriorly to raise that leg and keep trunk stability working in a nice, safe, supine position. Now, the next ones we're going through are the Brettzel series. This was invented by a guy named Brett Jones in the FMS community. So this is definitely not mine, but our Brettzel, which is our version 1, is great for hip extension and thoracic rotation. So we are going to pull one leg to the floor. We're going to bring the other leg back to our hand like so, pinning this knee here. If we can't get to that range, we can use our foam roller underneath, but we're going to pull that down and then we're going to rotate open using the breath. The idea is to get that opposite shoulder to the floor. So the back of the shoulder should touch the floor when we achieve full range. Now we'll notice these restrictions if our hip can't stay in full extension on this bottom leg, or our shoulder can't get to the floor. So that's hip extension on this bottom leg, knee staying on the floor of this top leg, or shoulder getting to the floor. Okay? So we're going to work that position using the breath to open up into that nice open position as we go. So increasing the range as the breath allows, not forcing in and trying to just cheat through into position. The next is the Brettzel 2. Now we're going to start in this 90-90 position. So instep of the foot in contact with the knee in this 90-90 position, and we're going to rotate this way. So we come across and place our hand down beside our hip. So you'll see this line here. Now we're going to take a deep breath in and we're going to shoot this arm through underneath. Ideally, we should be able to get this shoulder to the floor. Now this is going to challenge our posterior chain, meaning our back, our glutes, and that hip coming across, loading that bottom hip and glute, and that shoulder range going forward into flexion. Things you need to look for here is not being able to get that shoulder to the floor as you sweep through. A level up we can do on that stretch which increases the difficulty on that posterior chain is extending this leg that you're rotated to the side of. So by extending this leg, we are actually going to challenge the range through posterior chain all the way down to our heel. And as you can see, I've got a bit of work there. I can't get my shoulder to the floor. So let's go through a couple of breaths, see if we can increase range comfortably and steadily through using the breath. And there you go, shoulder to the floor. Only took a few breaths, but at the very start, it was very tight through that posterior chain, and it took a few breaths to loosen up and to open up into that position. So there you have it, the mobility section of trunk stability, talking about compound mobility work to highlight any particular issues in any part of the body to allow you to free them up through trigger point and other individual trigger mobility strategies, to get into that compound mobility work.